All right. So Iman, do you want to start, sweetie?
Yeah, sure. Sorry. By the righteousness of God, but for the anthem of praise voiced by him who heralded the divine revelation, this wronged one would never have breathed a word which might have struck terror into the hearts of the ignorant and caused them to perish. Dwelling on the glorification of him whom God shall make manifest, exalted be his manifestation. The Bab in the beginning of the Bayan said, he is the one who shall proclaim under all conditions. Verily,
Whereas
verily, I
I
am
am
God.
God. No God is there but me, the Lord of all created things. In truth, all other except me are my creatures. O my creatures, me alone do ye worship.
Likewise, in another instance, he magnifying the name of him who shall be made manifest, said, I will be the first to adore him.
I would be
Now
the first to adore him.
Now it behoveth one to reflect upon the significance of the adorer and the adored one, that perchance the people of the earth may partake of a dewdrop from the ocean of divine knowledge, and may be enabled to perceive the greatness of this revelation. Verily, he hath appeared and hath unloosed his tongue to proclaim the truth. Well is it with him who doth acknowledge and recognize the truth, and woe betide the forward and the wayward, the froward and the wayward.
All right, so remember I think we did talk about it, that to us from the hindsight in the history, it seems like everything was just went smooth and hunky-dory, but it took almost Baha'u'llah's full time of his revelation for the Babis to fully turn to the revelation, actually. So it was quite a struggle over the years. And one of the problems, and mostly it turned into a struggle because of Mirza Yahya's doings, by the way, right? So um, and that will always be the thing, that the word and the revelation has potency to turn around humanity. But within the community, when people are taking things to some other direction and it's splitting that way, that's when this trouble happens, that everything slows down and nothing really works according to the plan, time-wise. In the long run, God's message wins, by the way. We have, if you ever feel disconcerted on how slow the progress is, and it is very slow, look at the history, all of the history of religion, and that will give you some real heart to see how things work because of us, because of our failings. One of the struggles during this time, Baha'u'llah's revelation, was because there are direct verses in the revelation. And it's quite strange to me that the whole or the most of the Quran is direct revelation, and it talks that way. I am God, and there is no other God but God, right? So that whole revelation is that, and these are mostly most of these these communities from Muslim background. So, but if it was not for those who are creating troubles in your own hearts and stuff and all that, I guess things would have been better. But one of the things that they used to condemn the enemies, the Yahya clan and others, would condemn, and that still happens in Islamic societies, by the way, against the faith. Because of these direct type of revelations, they were telling people, and they're claiming that Baha'u'llah, as a human being, as a person, is claiming to be God. And that would turn people away, of course, right? So a human being cannot claim to be God. Now, that's why I think in one of the classes we talked about this. First time when I was traveling back to that end, and somebody was asking some questions about within our own a Baha'i, and they said that they had not studied the Igan and they don't really understand it. And I was like, do you study the Quran? And they don't study the Quran. And I'm like, then you're residing in a Muslim country. How do you teach them? These are the two core foundations of, you have to know the Quran and you have to know the Igan to how to take care of the answers and the problems that the Muslims have. And during that conversation, they says, well, there was a huge problem, and they always ask, they get stuck with this because through the enemies and all that, of course, you will notice that when people are trying to prove you wrong, they don't come to you to try to ask you what your truth is. Very few sincere people out there would act that way. That if they're trying to, if they don't believe that you're truly right, but they heard that, you are saying you have this, very few sincere human hearts are out there who will say, okay, tell me what it is, right? Tell me what is it that you believe, and then go from there. Most people will turn to your enemies to hear what they have to say about or against you. And they do exactly the same thing about religion, right? So therefore, they always get the negative and the bad news that the enemies are spreading first. And that still is the case to this day. And so I said, they say that Baha'u'llah says he's God. And I'm like, because I knew this problem, I said, well, what answer do you give? And the person says, well, I mean, we say yes and no. I'm like, oh my God. Like, why do you say yes? Why do you say yes to that? And why do you say yes to that? If you could do yes and no in a Christian community, because they have a very different take on how this works. But in a Muslim community, I was like, what the hell are you doing? The moment you said yes, they don't want to hear your no after that. You're done. You're done at that first word. You close the ears of the person. There's no more teaching going to go on. And I was like, why don't you immediately repeat what Baha'u'llah himself says about it, right? That when I'm proclaiming thy word, O my Lord, I am moved to say, I am God, because the word is saying, I am God, the word of God. The word of God is God, because that's the only God we know. Through his word, we know God, right? And he says, but when I contemplate my own self, O my Lord, I am but coarser than clay, right? Coarser than clay, less than the clay we are made of as human beings. Wouldn't that suffice? And it does, because that is actually the true answer. So that's what he's taking care of. And he says, if the Bab didn't say that he would, the next manifestation, the light of God will claim that, not the person of human being of me. Make sense? So there are at least two modes of revelation that we know of, right? Which means two modes of address, how God addresses us. There is what we are calling the direct mode of address, which is verily, verily, I am God. So in that, it's like the mouth of the manifestation as a person is just repeating what is coming, right? It's just an instrument. And then the other mode is when God is telling the manifestation, and then manifestation in his own sense is telling you that. And then you will read that he is telling you to do this, right? It's an indirect order. That's most of the writings are that way. God is asking you to do this. God is asking you through this, God forbid, you know what I mean, right? So like through the manifestation, God is asking you, the rest of humanity, through the manifestation to do this. That's the indirect revelation. He still is delivering the word God is giving, but he's delivering it in a second person to say, he's asking me to ask you to do this. Most of the scriptures, most of the writings are in that address. But then there are verses in every scripture where the direct communication comes, right? And at that moment, that mouth, now that the human side of the mouth is just an instrument, as if you're using if you are using a machine, a loudspeaker, right? Or a microphone. And the microphone said, and there was no person to be seen, there was no person holding it, just a microphone. A microphone said, I am God. You will know that some voice is coming through it, right? So the voice of God is coming through that mouth that is in front of you as a person, but it's a direct revelation. So that's how in our understanding at this level of our evolution, we understand how this is working. And always remember, no matter what we understand how it works, or no matter how better we understand how it works compared to the previous generations and centuries, we still are faulty. Why? Our understanding of what God is will at it's progressing. At the same time, it's always going to be faulty. Why? Because God is unknowable, right? God is unknowable. We'll never know the essence of God for what that is. So what we know is some idea of his attributes. But the writings are very clear that even the attributes we know are not of actual God's essence, but they are of the manifestation of the light that you see of the sun, right? You can't touch the sun, but you do see the light. The light is not light is not piece of the sun, it's an emanation. So the qualities you're seeing are of the emanation, not of the actual essence of the thing. That we will never know. So yes, we are progressing, but to the future generation, whatever we believe, they'll say, oh, your belief was faulty, right? Because it was not full. It was not fuller. It'll never be full, but it will be fuller, meaning it will be better than ours. And the moment something is better than ours, the way we look at it, that's why we touch on this quite often, to not say that the previous revelations were faulty. Let's not use those words. Let's say that that knowledge was according to what we could understand. Because our own writings are very clear about it. Baha'u'llah says he's only giving us what we understand, not what he understands, right? Leave alone what God understands. So the word itself, which is God, right? The first few verses of the Bible, the Gospel of St. John says, before all else was word, with capital letter. The word was with God. The word was God. And in that frame, then they will say that since Christ was the word of God, therefore he is God in that sense, right? Not that a human body has turned into God. But if you don't keep the distinction alive for what you're doing and what you're saying, over the centuries, that dust gets the inner problem totally buried. And now common person, yeah, he was God, the way the essence of God works. And therefore humanity wants to walk away because that is not possible. Make sense? So it's if you pay attention, it's not a very complicated issue. But when we don't pay attention, it becomes a very complicated issue, right? So the whole issue of Trinity, same thing happened, which is your ringstone symbol now, but by the way, it explains the relationship. So these words are different. God's world is separate, then the contingent worlds are separate, and it's his spirit, his manifestation that connects all of them, right? So without that, we'll have no light. So if the sun did not have the emanating light coming from it, which then brings the light and heat, which then grows everything, by the way, right? So if the sun existed, but the system worked in such a way that its light did not reach us, nothing will live, right? Everything lives because of sunlight, right? And it's because of its warmth and its light. That's what manifestation is. If that didn't reach us, we will not live. Nothing will live. Make sense, this paragraph? So he's saying, because the Bab said that the next revelation will claim this, the next revelation claims this. But what he's saying, to my understanding, is that if the Bab didn't already said that he will do it, he knew where my problems were and how limited my understanding was. He would have refrained from using such sentences. Because that's what happened in the very previous sort of revelations. Lots of things were refrained from being said because we couldn't understand it, and therefore we will turn on its heels and run to the hills, right? However, if you look at the whole tablet Tajalli again, it's quite interesting that we will believe that God was speaking in a burning bush, but we won't believe that God is speaking through a human mouth, which is so much higher than a bush, right? So if I'm willing to believe that a burning bush was speaking and giving me the message of God, and I should prostrate to it. Why do I have a problem that a human being that is so much of a higher creation than a green bush out there is giving me God's message? It's quite strange the way, because how we always are rebellious to truth, that there's something wrong with our cognizant power, right? That throughout generations, they'll be willing to believe that, right? So you'll go to India and you can go to a goat and elephant and mouse temple, but God forbid if you tell them Baha'u'llah is talking something. Really? I mean, you see the problem? It's like unbelievable sort of issue. And that's what he's addressing here, right? So when he says, I am God in the writings, it's the word directly speaking to us. There's a very beautiful place in one of the tablets, I think it's in the Gleanings, where Baha'u'llah is saying that his soul was having that direct communication. There is a dialogue going on. And then he says, all at once the revelation stopped. And as if you're making a pearl necklace and your thread broke, and it like there was no more connection left anymore. It's so beautiful. Find it and read it. It's so beautiful. So that's the moments he's talking about, when that direct revelation comes. And the Bab elsewhere in his writing says that when it's called the water of life, the river of water in heaven, that is direct revelation of God, directly what is said. And that there are those souls whose hearts are so pure that the moment that word happens and they hear, their hearts hear it, they prostrate because they know that that is from God. And that's the direct revelation. And most of the Quranic revelation is direct revelation. All right. And by the way, the only thing we know of God is the manifestation of God. Always remember that. So whatever highest praise we give it, it's not wrong. It's just that we still need to be very careful. The essence of God is separate from that. The manifestation itself is a creation. And there is a distinction, but for our purposes from this end, that's all we know. We'll never go above that. The tree beyond which there is no passing. We will never go beyond that. We cannot go beyond that. So therefore, that is the highest thing for us. But there is a higher thing to them, right? Which is the essence of God. So, all right. Next, Carmel.
O kindreds of the earth, incline your ears unto the voice from the divine lottery, which overshadoweth the world, and be not of the people of tyranny on earth. Men who have repudiated the manifestation of God and his invincible authority, and have renounced his favors, they in truth are reckoned with the contemptible in the book of God, the Lord of all mankind. The glory which had dawned above the horizon of my tender mercy rest upon thee, and upon whosoever is with thee, and giveth ear to thy words concerning the cause of God, the Almighty, the All-Praised.
So the faith is quite successful with a sincere type of atheists, right? Why I call it sincere type of atheists? They're just, when people are fighting the truth, there's two types. One is that actually don't understand, and therefore they have questions. And if those questions cannot be properly answered, then they kind of stay in that darkness of disbelief because they can't understand. But there is the other type that is there to just for fighting purposes, right? We call them militant atheists, or militant this or militant that type of stuff. Not only that their whole purpose is just to fight, but they will consistently fight. They'll poke you. They don't leave things alone. Those are harder to help because it's a willful blindness, right? It's a willful thing that they created. And that's why Abdul Baha says that if it turns into argument, just leave them, leave. There's no point in arguing when it's for the sake of just arguing against somebody. Don't do it. No point. So that's why the writings are full of it too. When you're teaching, find the seeker. Find the sincere person who actually wants to know, who has sincere answers. They're sincerely ignorant. Ignorance is not a curse, by the way. It's not a curse word. It's just that you don't know. Now, these days, it's used that way because we throw at it so freely at people and then they get upset. But ignorance simply meant that you don't know a certain thing. You're ignorant of it. And that can be remedied because the knowledge can be provided. And then there it is. Now, just because you think you have the truth doesn't mean you have done the justice to it, right? And Advent is very clear about that. To successful teaching, you must prepare yourself. You must be able to answer questions properly and from person to person according to their capacity, right? That's on me. So just because I think I have the truth and then I blurt it out, that doesn't mean that I've done my duty. However, if I've done my duty right, then those who are sincerely seeking, at least even if they didn't just quite get it right there and then, they will have some reflection and partially my job is done. But those who just argue for the sake of argument, that's done. There's no point in it, right? So why we are, in my understanding, why we are quite successful, Baha'i Faith is quite successful with the sincere type of atheists, because what they are objecting are the older ideas of, not the real ideas, but the older ideas, the way humanity understood what God is. The more our material knowledge grows, the more we can judge our spiritual knowledge, by the way, right? So if our spiritual knowledge is based on truth, it will align with the material side of the knowledge as well, because both these worlds are God's in its essence. Make sense? So the way the universe is in its own essence and truth is true, same as the actual religion delivered by the mouthpiece of the manifestation is the truth. So is the creation of the material world as it is created by God is the part of truth. Make sense? But we study the religion and we study the science. Science is study of material world. Both of our studies could be wrong, or one could be wrong. My understanding of the religion could be wrong. My understanding of science could be wrong. My understanding of both could be wrong. So we don't base the actual essence of truth on my understanding, but the actuality of existence. Make sense? So the religion, that's why religion and science works hand in hand with the actual essence of religion and the actual essence of material creation of the world, creation, which is the world. Make sense? Not every Tom, Dick, and Harry scientist is truthful. Not that they're, maybe most of them are not purposefully lying, but their knowledge is faulty. So is the religious leadership that we have been warned over and over and over again. Just because somebody thinks that they know better than you does not mean that they know better than you. So there are checks and balances to see how do you then check that somebody's knowledge is actually according to the word that is giving in hand, right? So when you present to a person who cannot grasp, and none of us can grasp what the essence of God is, he's unknowable. And if you stick with that, and then you come to the first and highest creation of God, which is the manifestation, which is Adam and Noah and Jesus and Moses and Krishna and Buddha and Zoroaster and Bob and Baha'u'llah and Muhammad, right? These are the names of that manifestation. That is the first creation, the first light that comes and teaches us how to be. How to be. Without that, we cannot grow, right? Why? Because that lesson teaches me how to treat Carmel and Iman, how Iman and Carmel should treat each other, even though they're siblings. How should Vijay and Shimi treat each other, and how should Vijay and Shimi treat their children? Because when that goes wrong, it breaks down, life breaks down, society breaks down, no civilization is built. And God's purpose in giving religion is what? Ever advancing civilization, right? So when it comes to God's religion as me person, at a personal level, it is my growth and journey towards next life, that I develop the limbs that my soul needs to live after my body is gone. That's the purpose of living righteously with religion, by the way, right? It's not an arbitrary thing. God doesn't need my prostrations. He has no need of this, right? So all of that messaging that he sends, the lessons that he sends, how to be, what ethic means, how to live an ethical life, is I am creating the limbs to live for eternity for my soul. So he's teaching. It's a school. He's teaching me. You're getting a degree. Okay, you can rebel and say, I don't want a degree. I'll just sweep the streets for the rest of my life because I have no other knowledge. Well, be it. Free will, he's given you that too. That's all that is. At an individual level, the religion is to get to that, to keep on progressing towards truth. The more I progress towards truth, the more that means I'm developing my ears, my eyes, my speech, and all that, metaphysically speaking. In this world, is the body that works first. In next world, the body wouldn't go with us. It's the soul that works, and the soul limbs are ethical word. That's what God is teaching at an individual level. For a collective level in this world, the purpose of religion is, so it's twofold, right? At the very first and foremost is individual. That's at individual level. My relationship to how I understand God and how I move forward, my soul moves forward. At a collective level on this earth, it is an ever advancing civilization, right? So we live better with ourselves. That's what creation of civilization is, right? So we live better with ourselves, therefore we create better resources for ourselves and for each other to develop in this material world. So regardless of how much darkness you see right now, it's not as dark as it was 3,000 years ago, right? So the way we treated each other, the way the neighbor treated the neighbor, or the community treated the community, or the tribe treated the tribe, we don't have that level of problem. We still have a huge level of problem, but it's a different type of problem. Makes sense? So ever advancing civilization. So from that angle, the only thing we know is his written word, God's written word. That's all that matters, right? For here, that's all that matters. And therefore, all that matters is for us to know who Baha'u'llah is. If your brain cannot work towards what God is and cannot dissect the thing that how that works, then let it go. That's what Buddha's lesson was, by the way. If your capacity is not to go there, just let it go. Then work at a lesser level, at this level, at the contingent level, and get that perfected. That is easy for all of us, isn't it? If you want to, if you're not contentious all the time, if you're not fighting just for the sake of fighting, then it is easiest thing to understand what a manifestation is. Who was Christ? What did he give? Who was Moses? What did he give? Who was Muhammad? What did he give? Who was Baba and Baha'u'llah? What did they give me? What did they ask me to do? So just then work at that. See that is a representation of God. And you have not been asked to go any beyond that if you don't have the capacity. And even those of us who have the capacity, the only capacity is to make the distinction that manifestation is contingent and there is a power beyond it. That's it, right? What that power is, even at the highest level of our comprehension, we cannot comprehend. Simple. So when we get stuck on that idea, then what is the verdict here at the last end? Read that again, Carmel, the very last paragraph.
Yeah, okay. The glory which had dawned from there.
Mm-hmm.
The glory which had dawned above the horizon of my tender mercy rest upon thee and upon whosoever is with thee, and giveth ear to thy words concerning the cause of God, the Almighty, the All-Praise.
All praise. Go back a little bit. Read the last two lines of the previous paragraph. Men who have repudiated the manifestation of God, which is the prophet of God, the messenger of God, which all the names we call, meaning the message of God for how you should develop yourself, and his invincible authority, and have renounced his favors, they in truth are reckoned with the contemptible in the book of God, the Lord of all mankind. Why that makes sense? Every manifestation has taught me how to be, right? Every manifestation, because it's one manifestation, they just come under like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We call it different days, but their essence is the same. It's one first creation, the Word of God. The Word of God comes and tells me, don't lie. Love your brother as you love yourself. This time around, the manifestation says, love your brother more than yourself. And when we say your brother, we don't mean the male person, we mean human being, right? We know in the writings. When we say him, we don't mean male person, we mean human being. So everybody is your brother. In this world, we call it, because genders only are in this world, they don't belong to the soul. The soul has no genders, right? The soul has no gender. So in next world, there will be no genders. It's all one soul. And Iman cracked a joke, and I would like to laugh at that too, but you're muted.
Yeah, he told me, hey, brother.
Yes, good job. Right. So a brother, a human means a person, right? A man means a person. When it's the word man is used in the writings, in the scriptures, it just means a human being, both female and male, right? Because Genesis said what? God created man in his image, created he, them, male and female. Created he, him, male and female. So one person is created in two genders, humanity, right? So that gender for humanity is in this world only. The soul does not have a gender. The writings are clear about that. So the Word of God teaches me, if I am sincere to seek answers, then I should be content with that, right? Yes, I don't understand what the essence of God is. I'm confused about it. Every time I try to contemplate it, I cannot contemplate it. And I can't. None of us can. Some of us are better with that than others, but none of us can at that level because it's unknowable. I never would. So if then I'm stuck only on that problem and letting go of all the stuff that I understand what he has given me to do, then that's what the contempt is for, right? Contemptible. Because I understand what the job is given. Why don't I just do the job then, right? Turn to manifestation, love him, follow him, be obedient. Be obedient to what he's called you to do. Forget about if you would or would ever understand what the relationship of us is with God, because it's unknowable. We'll never know it. Let it go, right? So because of that, those who are sincere atheists, because when in the previous scriptures and the people said, oh, God is like a human being sitting on the sky, sending lightning on you, and he creates pigs and then hates them. Really? I mean, even to my child mind, that didn't work at all. I was like, why would God create something and then hate it, right? God is saying, don't use something like, don't pick up a snake, makes sense. Because, right, even when you didn't come to Abdul Baha's explanation, which is so clear cut, that snake is perfect in his own self. It's just that his poison is against your constitution. So when that mingles, it causes you death or hurt. So don't go there. But just because it causes you death does not mean the snake in itself is wrong. Within its own life, he's perfect for an ounce of fear. Just don't cross that. So certain type of eating causes your body distress. So God says, don't go there. But those things in themselves have their own purpose and they're perfect in their own selves. Perfect, no problem there. But saying that God created something and he asked you not to go there because he hates it. Why would God create something and then hate it? It doesn't make sense. It goes contrary to justice, which God is just, right? So what they are discarding is the human description of what God is. What human description of God could have been done. All of that description, we as Baha'is don't agree with either, right? So that's why at the end of the cause, Mr. Furthan said that when he was in Russia and that became communist atheist, and they knew that he was, they will come to him and they'll ask him, I was like, do you believe in God? And because those who said we believe in God, they'll kill him actually. So it's not like he's trying to save his life, but it's true. And he says, I'll just turn and say, the God you don't believe in, I don't believe in. And they leave him alone, but that is truth. So not every atheist is actually atheist, right? So for example, the people whom Christian call atheist is a different problem than the people whom a Muslim will call atheist is a different problem. Because Christianity, not Christianity, but Christian churches explain Christ in a certain way that scientifically, materially, spiritually doesn't make sense. So when you grow your knowledge higher than that level of peasantry, then you point your finger and say, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. And because I said that doesn't make sense, somebody labels me an atheist does not make me into an atheist. Make sense? I'm actually objecting on the right things. But the society has labeled me atheist because I don't agree with their understanding, right? So that's what is happening. But right, so those, now you can see that those who sincerely were asking questions to say your description doesn't work. The Baha'i description works, all right? My job is with the manifestation here in this world. I know there's a higher power. I know there's a Lord to the manifestation himself. And the message is coming from him. But if my brain can't grasp it, that's okay. That's okay as long as I'm obedient to the message that was sent, right? I don't know who the principal of the school is. Maybe my class is so different from them or whatever. My house is so far away, I'll never see them. But it doesn't matter. They're running the school. Your teacher is coming to your class. Your job is to learn from your teacher, right? Would you quit the school because you don't know the principal? That's what we are doing when we are doing that other thing. That's what we are doing. We are quitting the school because we don't know the principal. I haven't seen him or her. I don't know how they look like. Are they black or white or green or blue? Are they skinny or fat or whatever you want to know about them? And maybe you'll never know them because they never come, they work from home, they never show up. So you'll never know them. So therefore you don't want to sit in the class. You don't want to learn the math. You don't want to be educated because you don't know the principle. That's how stupid it is, right? Walking away from guidance of God because you don't know God or you don't know how to understand it, and walking away from the message that is clear cut in your hand, and it makes sense to your soul. Any sincere soul knows I shouldn't be lying. Every sincere soul knows I should love the other person. Every sincere soul knows I should not be cutting their throats. Every sincere soul knows I should not be using bad language, cheating, defiling, all of those things. It's built into me. Why? Because God said he created me in his image, in his qualities, the image of his qualities. So within myself, I know those things. So when somebody's coming and teaching me how to accomplish the good side of me, why can't I follow that? Right? So if I don't want to follow that because I don't know the principle of the school, then you know that I'm not sincere in my quest. Simple. I'm here fighting for sake of fighting, and it's willful blindness, and nobody can cure you from it. But if you're not willfully blind and you actually sincerely are seeking answers, then don't worry too much about what God's essence is or what God is. Get to the manifestation, follow the pathway. Be a good person as the manifestation has asked you to be. And if you're worthy of some higher understanding on the inner math problems, someday, hopefully, he'll help you. Right? But if you quit the school because you don't know the principle, you'll never have the education. Neither would you ever have the chance of knowing the principle because you took yourself out, right? If you stayed, maybe she'll show up at some ceremony and you get to see them, right? I mean, makes sense? So there is still some chance of some connection that you'll know more about them if you stayed in the school, studied it, got your education done. But if you quit, left, oh, I don't know if they're skinny or fat, I'm gonna go. Then you're done, right? You're done. It's contemptible. And the only thing you hurt is yourself, by the way, no one else. While those who love you would be hurt over your loss and over your darkness. But they have their own lives, they'll move on. But the real person that you hurt by doing and being that kind of soul is yourself. Make sense? All right. Any questions or comments on that? Come on, it was a hefty message and topic. You should have some thoughts. Share them.
Yeah, it's like I don't. It was like it's like an incident, a conversation kind of, with my friend in college. So
Yeah.
she's my partner who sits next to me.
Mhm.
So and I have another friend.
Before you move forward, because I will forget it later. In English speaking countries, don't call her your partner.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can say she's my teammate, or she's in my group, or she sits next to me.
We all here used to call him partner. She's my partner. He's my partner. So.
I mostly don't say these things, by the way, and often because there is difference in usage of words. Every now and then you guys will use a word, and I'm like, oh my God, if you use that here, it will be like, oh. So, yeah. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
she's my benchmate
Yeah.
and also a friend. And then I also have a friend who I made from school.
Mhm.
We're actually close friends, but she's in commerce.
Okay.
So during lunch break, she comes from her class to my class to eat lunch. So we sit together and we eat lunch. And the topic, I don't know, that the topics just jump from one thing to another.
Yeah, that's
So
how the natural conversation goes everywhere. So yeah.
yeah, so it's like first thing it went about weddings, and then since both of them are Christians and they speak Konkani and stuff, Roman Catholics they
Oh.
call themselves. So they were talking about how Christian wedding functions and what and all is there to do, and how they have something called as confirmation. It's like it's like the Holy Spirit comes on that day and blesses you with wisdom and stuff. And they were saying how I was confused about that actually. Like how can the Holy Spirit just come and bless you there and then you're confirmed just like that. So I didn't speak anything because I didn't want to offend them or something. So I kept quiet. And she's my benchmate. She spoke about how since they're Roman Catholics, they are protected. They like
Same as
God
Baha'is
has
are chosen.
protected them.
Baha'is are chosen, Muslims are chosen, the Jews are everybody chosen, yes, and protected. Baha'is too think that some certain things cannot happen to them because they're chosen this time. Okay, go ahead.
No, with me, she's telling them protected because they're Roman Catholics and then, God loves them more or something like that. And I was just thinking, my head is remembering, the Kitab Aqdas, the first page, what it tells about if you don't believe in Baha'u'llah and all these things. I was remembering that, I was smiling to myself. I was actually so happy because, like, what is she talking there? What have I seen? I'm a Baha'i already. She knows, I've told her about the faith already, like, faith is like this, faith is like that. So I told her about a Baha'i wedding, how it functions. Like I recently attended one, so I told her how that wedding went on, and they were like, "Oh, that's small and stuff." I said, "Yeah, it's a simple wedding. It's very nice, and it's not unlike complicated weddings like where some stuffs are compulsory. You have to dress up in this outfit or you have to do this." Ours is pretty simple. We don't have to do much. We just have to share our vows and then be loyal. And then from there, it went on to some other topic about religion, how religion originated and stuff. So they looked at me, my two friends, and they were like, "You're saying Baha'i faith is like a new religion." So, and I was like, yeah. And then at some point they reached a thing that they were thinking Baha'i faith is like one of a sect of Islam because I told Baha'i faith started from Iran, and they were like, um, so you're saying Islam, it's like how Islam is one religion, but then there are a group of people who believe in something else, and they form their own group. So maybe Baha'i faith is like that. So I told, no, it isn't. And they're like, yeah, it is. And I got pissed off at that moment. And I was like, don't you think I know my faith much better? And they just went quiet like that. And then they told like they didn't mean it that way. But I was like, then what do you mean by that? Islam is a different religion as a whole. And then I was talking in that case, we're talking about Christ. Christ is a Jew. maybe you guys are like sect of Judaism like that. And they're like, no, 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 no. It's nothing like that. We are just Christians. We believe in Christ. We believe in Mary and stuff. So I thought, yeah, you guys have sects. There's different sects or groups that is being formed because you believe in something. Or you believe in some person. Like Roman Catholics is a different sect as a whole. And then there's some other Catholic group that is there. But we as Baha'is is not like there's no Indian Baha'i or there's no American Baha'i or something like that. It's just Baha'i faith, it's just Baha'i faith like that. And they were like, oh, okay, okay. And they went quiet after that. How could I got so pissed off at that moment? Like, I just can't tolerate it, like I was like so calm and I was explaining it to them in such a calm manner. I was like, no, it goes like this, it goes like that. And then suddenly they just claim that Baha'i faith is a sect of Islam, despite me telling it's not. It just burst out at that moment.
Well,
And it's
busting out sometimes is necessary. So, right, what is called blasting the walls. One of the hand of the cause is called. It was like dynamited. So it was like we don't take the real guns and swords, but the Baha'u'llah calls on what? Fight it with the sword of thy word, right? Your tongue and your actions, fight it with that. Yes. Next time it comes, maybe you should bring it back again. And actually you can, and don't be apologetic about it. Say, hey, we were talking about that. And yes, sometimes it's, I understand that from your point of view, you think, okay, you know your truth, but nobody else knows their truth. But everybody believes what they believe and how they think. So maybe we should learn how to communicate, first of all. And you should have these conversations, have grown-up conversations with grown-up friends, right? And so you say, yes, you said something and it kind of triggered me in a bit of a wrong way. But the reality is every chapter of faith for what we are told comes from God's mother book. That's why Christ came from Jewish background, but created a new step of civilization. And you call it a new religion. In one sense, it's not a new religion. He was enhancing what God gave before, right? And Moses was enhancing what God gave before him. And before him, it chain continues. And so in one sense, we are not a new religion. We are just the next enhancement in civilization from that same God that you have some names for because of its own names and whatever. And when
I explained this one as well to them about how from, like Jewish, and then there's some laws will be there from the Jewish faith, and there'll be some laws will be broken, and there'll be new laws added to that particular religion. So I tried explaining this before I reached the point of, about me knowing my own religion. I explained it to them like clearly, like, see, Baha'i faith is also a new religion. It is originated in Iran, but they have, because it's like from an Islamic country, there are some laws that are from Islam. There are laws that have been broken, what was there, and there are new laws for us as well. And the man went, no, 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 but that is like Islam itself, you're different than the same sect and things.
because that's what their elders talk about, right? And they have not reflected on it themselves at all. But it's good. All of this is good, by the way. These conversations, as they will stick in your head for rest of your life, same happens to them too. My whole journey, in a sense, started with a conversation like that. Because I grew up a Muslim, believing I was the only chosen one. All the Muslims are chosen, everybody else goes to hell. And one of my best friends was Christian. So I made some stupid comment like that about Christians. I did, right? And she was living in a Muslim country. She knew Islam better than I knew Christians because Christians are in minority. So I ended up making some stupid comment, and she exactly turned to me and said, Muslims do this and that, and said something wrong. And I knew that she knew that Muslims, she didn't say Muslim, she said Islam, because I said Christianity teaches something, basing it on what Christians do, right? That's what my stupidity was. So she turned right back and said, Islam teaches this, which I knew Islam doesn't, and she knew Islam doesn't. And when I said, Islam doesn't teach this, and she shrugged her shoulder and says, but Muslims are doing it, that shut me off. That was my first step towards realizing how all of us are wrong about how we see each other. That was the first day I went back home and picked up the Bible and started reading it. because my people too are saying, you don't need to touch that. That was all old. It's all gone. There's nothing true left in it. People have manipulated it. People have changed it, right? So you don't need it. You don't need to look at it. It's just discarded stuff. All of those people are going to go to hell because, they should have only come to Muhammad. That was the first day I went back home because it shook my soul. It was just simple friends dialogue like that, and kind of getting into each other's face, not even like angrily. I still have loved that girl more than my life, right? But I went back home that day, and we always had the Bible in our library. I never bothered because my community said other things and I believed them. And I opened, and it opened on the Sermon of the Sermon of the Mount, which is Christ's direct address to people at that time, because the four Gospels are not all full words of Christ. They are like stories told by other people. It's like, I call it Anna's presentation, right? If Anna's presentation was the only thing that survived, if the world had a meteor attack and everything burned down, and 500-600 years after people dug up the stuff and all that, then they only got the Anna's presentation, do you know how wrong they would be about what Baha'i faith is? Or how limited, let's put it that way. Extremely limited, right? So that's how I see the Gospels, because they were teaching out there, and they had to limit the story to tell the story of Christ, and then they discarded everything else. Right now, what Baha'is are doing, Baha'is are discarding all the main scripture and only sticking to Ruhi. And if only Ruhi will survive and your books would be burned out, nobody will know what Baha'i faith actually is. That's what had happened, in my personal humble opinion, to Christianity, right? So you save those four Gospels, there is very little that comes out of Christ himself in those Gospels. So if you compiled all that actually comes out of Christ's own blessed mouth, it's 15 pages maybe at most. The rest is somebody else telling the story. This happened, that happened, there were these many people, this and that and the other, right? So it opened on the Sermon of the Mount, which is the direct revelation, which actually Christ is addressing the people. I cried, and not on purpose, I was just reading it and I realized I was bawling because I saw the same God speaking in there that touched me when I read the Quran always. It was exactly the same voice. That's what brought me to the faith too when I read few paragraphs of Igan. It was the same voice. My soul recognized it. I was like, whoa, who brought this one, right? So these things matter. Keep at it according to your capacity and all that. From the hindsight, when you look back, there will be some embarrassment because you'll have more knowledge, be deep and more courage, and you'll say, oh, I should have said this, that, or the other at that time, maybe, right? Which is good too, because through those embarrassments, we become better at the next conversation, right? But these things matter. As I said, I was between 13 and 14, and my whole journey started that's where I started looking at people of other faiths to what if they were as true as I was? That was my question. If they were all as true as I was, then where's the final answer then? Then what's going on, right? So next time when somebody says just that, oh, because we are all so loved and we are chosen, just smile and say, yes, everybody is during their own time. And it is true. The Jews were chosen until Christ. When they denied Christ, they were discarded by God. God says that. The Christians were chosen until Prophet Muhammad said, I am, I am, I am. And then they were discarded because they denied him. And then Muslims were chosen until the Bab said, I am, I am, I am. And when they discarded it, God says that in the Quran, he will reject you. Christ said that too. When I come back, I will reject you because you didn't do things I asked you to do. Right? So yes, and these kind of things, even if it takes you 30 seconds to utter it, it makes an impact on the soul. If it brought any reflection to that soul, that's what's called planting the seeds, right? You planted a seed of thoughtfulness in a head. Partially your job was done. Not fully until somebody comes there at the last end, if you can bring them. But our job is not the last end. Our job is to sowing the seeds in the proper manner, in the proper soil. Preparing the soil and planting the seed is the only job we have. The rest of the growth is between them and God, right? We are often concerned about the last growth rather than the first work, and that's why the things don't work, because we keep on doing the wrong things. So yeah, wonderful, good conversation.
There was another one which I had in dance class, but this was related to somewhat to Hinduism thing. So it's like there's like we are having practice for the performance, and so and we're taking a break because we have danced a lot. And so and there are like 3 to 4 people who are girls who are sitting from my group itself, and they were talking about Krishna, and there's a girl who is talking how she loves Krishna so much, and then about all those things what she reads about Krishna, and they have their own.
I do too, but I just adore Krishna. Yes.
Yeah, that's true. And she's telling about all those they have their set of prayers or whatever, and which they like to listen to and like to read. That's what they like doing about Krishna. And then they ask me about my religion, what's Baha'i, or what you're telling about. And they're saying that's the first time they've heard it. So what is Baha'i faith? So I told them about bit by bit, like what is Baha'i faith and what do we believe in. And I also told her because she's a Hindu and she was showing such interest in thing. I told her, about how it's been, something about how it's been promised in all the books about the coming of this manifestation. She was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, if you can go and check it out yourself. I'm working on it myself, about getting stuff from the Bhagavad Gita and then comparing with the Baha'i writings and stuff and writing it down. You can check it yourself. And so, fine, I'm going home and I'll check it out about the Baha'i faith soon. And then she talks about a person who dreamt about Krishna. It's like you have those TED Talks kind of thing where a person stand up thing. So there's a guy who was narrating an incident about what happened to his friend and how he dreamt about Krishna and what Krishna told him, like, won't you talk about me? You've always spoken about other lords and stuff. Won't you talk about me to the people? And when she's speaking about that dream about Krishna, and she was so fascinated because it was a dream about Krishna and how Krishna is divine and Krishna is, for her it is like at the highest level. So, and I was like, I remembered about, whenever they say something like that, I always feel grateful from within, like, I'm a Baha'i, thank God. I'm a Baha'i, thank God. So, whenever like, even if I don't mean to say it like that, inside, it just automatically just pops up in my head. I think I'm talking to myself, thank God I'm a Baha'i. And then there's a story in the Baha'i faith itself about, about Narayana Vakil and Jashoda Ben. So yeah, so Jashoda, there was a story about how Jashoda, when she's a Hindu, they've gone to Baji, and then she dreams about Krishna while she's sleeping at night. And then Krishna tells, Krishna is standing next to Baha'u'llah, and then they exchange. Baha'u'llah gives his stars to Krishna, and Krishna gives his robe to Baha'u'llah, crown to Baha'u'llah. And Krishna says to Jashoda, see, there's no difference between us. We both are the same. And thing. So I remembered that thing, and how Jashoda, when she woke up and she was very happy and she became a Baha'i the next day. So I was thinking of that same dream, but I left out the she became a Baha'i part because I don't want them to think I'm converting them or something. So it's like, and then she was telling about, and then she's talking about how the yugs, whatever the thing is, they have different yugas and stuff. She was talking about that as well. So I brought this up, this dream about what this one dreamt about Krishna up. And I shared it with her, see, this is what Krishna also tells, I was like directly hinting at, like I indirectly meant on hinting about, see, there's Baha'u'llah right here. Krishna is also telling this about Baha'u'llah, so you have to pay more attention. You can be saved. So I'm like, I'm saving your life right now. You better believe it. was like that, like directly some final thinking, and see, Krishna tells like it's about Baha'u'llah as well. So
Those regards are very important.
yeah, I know. I told
Learn that.
Kali Yuga, no?
This is Kali Yuga.
Kali Yuga, that's what I told her about. I told her Kali Yuga already started. And there's another friend of mine who is also a Hindu freak. Cannot say freak, but like, he's too devoted. Too devoted. So if I provide my set of arguments, he provides his set of arguments too. So we both bring proofs from each other's religions and we like show, see, this is here, this is here, this is
Which is
here.
fine because Krishna in essence is true as well. So I would present that you always acknowledge that. When somebody says, I love Krishna very much, say, I love him too, same as love Baha'u'llah.
Yeah.
You're supposed to. We're supposed to love him the same as Baha'u'llah, right? Because it's the same one manifestation of God. Yeah. That really kind of, in my experience, that really kind of makes people sit back. Because the moment they think that you are arguing, you're proving yours against theirs, they keep on fighting. But I'm not proving mine against theirs. I am proving that all of this is one line. To me, they're all one and the same. I truly do love Krishna the same. I love Baha'u'llah the same as I used to love Prophet Muhammad, and now I love Prophet Muhammad more than I understood him then. And I've always loved Christ, and I love him more now because I understand more his station, right? And so for us, since it's one faith of God from all the way back to now, of course my love is the same. So learn to try to come from that angle and see how changed the conversation becomes.
Now it's like, me and my friend, I tried explaining that to him as well, like how I see all of the manifestations as equal. And then it's like, when we provide set of arguments, we both laugh at each other because we already have our proofs ready in our hand. And then he brings a picture book of Kali. I thought Kali Yuga is already started, and he's like, it's already going on. And he's like, no, it hasn't started yet. How are you so sure? I was like, see here, I'm showing it to you. And he's like, no. And he brings a drawing book, or not a drawing book, he brings a picture book or something. And let's see, this is how Kali looks like. Be in a white horse, and he'll be sitting with a sword. And I was like, are you sure? Have you seen such a creature walking like that? Going like that?
The Native Americans had the same vision of coming of the promised one. He would be coming with a sword in hand on a white horse. So that's why when the Spaniards conquered the South American side, they actually all kind of they thought that this was the promised one coming. I was like, that was just the colonialism of Spaniards over the South America and all that and everything, and they suffered greatly over the decades. But they all kind of whoa, because of these stories. And they when they came, because you see in movies, like, you have horses and horses in America. The horses were not in America before Spaniards came. They brought the horses with them. The natives didn't know the horse. So when they brought the white horses, and they were these fair-skinned people that were coming on to this, it matched their prophecy of the coming of the promised one to some tribes. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Always just it's beautiful. These matter. They will stick with them, and you just always refine your talk in sincerity to where Baha'u'llah would want us, right? Baha'u'llah would want me to not argue against Krishna's cause, but promote his cause, right? So promote his cause to say Baha'u'llah is Krishna, right? So not that Baha'u'llah is better and that was then. That's the wrong argument. But Baha'u'llah is Krishna and is bringing the love of... I was raised a Muslim. Muslims believe Hindus are man-made religion. You see the miracle of Baha'u'llah? To my heart, I love Krishna now as I love Muhammad and Baha'u'llah. When a Hindu can see that, you see the change of reaction. And I got that love of Krishna because of Baha'u'llah, not because of my Islamic society. My Islamic society does not believe in Hindus. Muslims believe that Hindus are man-made, wrong, polytheistic. They're not even monotheistic religion. And they should all already be burning in hell. That's how they see them. But Baha'u'llah's miracle is, to me, a grown Muslim in Muslim faith, that today I love all these manifestations just as Baha'u'llah, because they're one and the same thing. They're one and the same essence. And when we can sincerely, first of all, sincerely have it, we shouldn't be saying that for the sake of whatever, because that's hypocrisy. If we can cultivate that truth of the love of that truth in our heart, and then when that comes out, I'm not saying that everybody I talk to becomes Baha'i, but very rarely somebody fights you because they get really startled. It was like, really? Like, because it is sincere, right? It is sincere. So I've seen Christ more time in my dreams than I've seen Muhammad. I've seen Christ more times in my dream than I've seen Baha'u'llah. Right? So dreams are tricky. Very good. That's fun. Aren't those conversations more fun than watching movies and stuff? Right?
No.
You do get pumped up for that, right? So, and plus the better we do, the better we become at that conversations and the better outcome happens, the more almost then the teaching work becomes addictive. So it's pretty good. Good job. Well, Iman, any stories? Mira, Ariana, Ryan, Solomon, any stories? Congratulations, Mira. How was the game? Are you dead tired?
Okay. It was good. Tiring. Tiring.
Yeah. The match is what, like 90 minutes long?
1 hour. 1 hour. 30 minutes each.
Oh, okay.
1 hour.
That's a lot running around, yeah. Good, good, good. All right. Any other comments, concerns? I think we'll stop. We'll start the new Tajalli next time. But yeah, the only way we know God is through these manifestations. And when those people say they love Krishna with all their heart, praise them. That's good. That's how it should be. That's how it should be. At the same time, all of those manifestations, the 10 commandments, that's where we learned this thing at the very first, in the most of the world anyway. And the first commandment is to love thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul. Right? That's requirement of every single chapter of the faith. Because without that, right living is not possible. It takes a lots of hard work to live in the right way. And without that higher love at the highest degree in your heart, human beings don't have the strength or the courage to live the right thing. Once you have that, it becomes your shield, actually. So every time you are tired, you're this, you're that, you just don't want to do it anymore, like this early morning. And my soul immediately says, get up on your butt and do it. You have to do it, right? Because you immediately feel like, whoa, you can't not do it. I mean, you said you'd do it. Would you be able to stand in front of Baha'u'llah and then you went back on your word? No, you can't. So that love becomes your shield against your own inertia, against your own weaknesses, against your own diseases, against your all of that, because we human beings are so full of excuses, and excuses are not always baseless. I mean, okay, I don't feel good today. If you could use as an excuse, then half the Sundays won't work, because more than half the Sundays I don't feel good in the morning, right? So that love that you have, if you cultivate that love, it becomes your own success, really. It becomes a shield in your hand. It shields you against your own self. So that love is necessary. And then one of the other 10 commandments is love thy neighbor as thyself. It was Christ who joined these two. When these are 10 commandments are from Mosaic law, right? So when Christ was asked, which one of the commandment, give me only like one that I can follow. If I cannot follow all 10, which one is the heftiest? Which one is the heaviest, the highest, Give me just one, this person asked. I'm paraphrasing. So Christ said, love thy God with all thy heart and all thy soul. And in the 10 commandments, that's just one commandment, but he didn't stop there. And he said, and love thy neighbor as thyself is the one and the same commandment. Right? What does Abdul Baha say? What religion is? Religion is service to humanity. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Same thing. Our service is bringing better ethical message to ourselves and to others. How to love each other, how to not be prejudiced, what is important to God, how not any creed, color, nationality, class, whatever, but human character. That's what teaching the faith is. You're eliminating all of those things from your lives, and you're asking people to eliminate those from their lives. And if majority of the people can do that, we then can build a better civilization together. Right? That's all teaching the faith is. And if they would learn the lesson that you're teaching them because it's beautiful, they would have no problem loving Baha'u'llah, who brought the message to you at the first place. You cannot love what you do not know. So throwing that cart in front of the horse to say they should immediately accept because I said Baha'u'llah's come, and then they should be able to respect and love him the way I do, is impossible event. I will only love him through his words. What he has shown me that I can be. And when I see that beauty, the heart immediately asks, right? I read 3-4 paragraphs from the Igan. I did not know the name Baha'u'llah, I never heard of it. Did not know the name of the Baha'i faith. Did not know anything about it. I asked. Because what he was teaching was so potent and beautiful, and I could see the truth in it because I had lived those problems, right? Humanity, that's why Abdul Baha says, teach them from their backgrounds. So when you know what their problems were, what they suffered, then you do bring that part of the teachings and message and answers to the table. The soul that has suffered those things will recognize the answers. The soul that recognizes the answers to why the suffering and where else we can go to not suffer that way will want to know who had brought you the gift. Does it matter to Baha'u'llah if I love him or not? It doesn't really. He has done his work. He's gone. He's done his work. Loving him matters to my living because that love is my shield. And I'm not making this up. This morning, I was not feeling well, and I got up, my eyes were almost swollen. I was washing my face, and I was like, even putting the eyeliner on wasn't really helping. I looked myself in the mirror. I was like, your one reaction was to send a message to everybody, say, let's cancel the class today. And something inside just smacked my face, like, you know, you can't do that. And the immediate thing was like, really, you're going to tell Baha'u'llah your eyes are swollen, so you can't do what you said you'll do? I'm like, yeah, I know, I can't tell him that. Let's go. It didn't matter to him. He has already done his job. Does it matter to him if we sit here and study today or not? It doesn't affect his well-being. Make sense? It does matter to him because he loves us. It matters to him because of, for my sake, because he loves me. But to his person, it neither hurts him nor benefits him. He's at the highest level of benefit already, right? But that love and that care for him becomes my own shield. And I'm very happy now that I'm here. And I know that if I can pull it off for 5 minutes, I'll be okay, right? Something else, I have to go to 2 more things today. And I was like already thinking, I'll write to them. I say, I can't do it. And then that same voice said, you know, if you just let it go for an hour, you'll feel okay. You'll be fine. Push yourself, right? That's why when Baha'u'llah says, keep your words. If you said you'll do it, you'll do it. If you said you'll be somewhere at 7 o'clock, you better be there at 7 o'clock. Not because Ms. Ghazala said that, but because Baha'u'llah said that. You make a mighty effort, and that mighty effort affects who? You. It only benefits yourself, right? So if they love Krishna with all their heart, then praise them for that, and add the sentence to say, I hope you study what he actually teaches and follow that. Because that's what our job is, right? If they don't want to hear about Baha'u'llah, if they don't want to become Baha'is, but if they could turn back to actually finding out what Krishna taught and do that, then you have done your second job best. There's always an accomplishment. Yeah. Sounds good? All right. Lovelies, all the best. Somebody was saying something? Anybody else? All right. I have 2 more things to do today. Pray for me.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.